SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Biz Talk on WHBY. I'm host Rick Sense along with co-host Terry Pinch today. Terry, how was your week?
It's been excellent. We are actually, I look out my window and there's no snow on the ground. I have faith that by May, maybe it'll be nice weather, and really looking forward to the summer. Actually looking forward to the NFL draft too. I think that'll be neat to have in this area.
That's just right around the corner too, isn't it? It's been a very fast timeline. Well, first, before we get started with the program today, I just want to take a moment and give a shout out to our mothership, so to speak, our station that hosts our program, WHBY. Congratulations, WHBY, on 100 years in serving Appleton, Northeast Wisconsin, and hoping and looking forward to another 100. And we just wish everybody well at WHBY and congratulate you on that achievement. So now back to the show. Today, we have as guest Mike Alexander, who is the Chancellor at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. And Mike, I'm just going to kick right off and go to the first question and just ask you if you'd be willing to share a little bit about your background with all the listeners this morning.
Sure. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Terry. It's great to be with you today. I have a bit of an unusual background, I guess, to do what I do now, and that I was an orchestral conductor. So I conducted the Georgia Symphony for 11 years and sort of came into higher ed in an unusual way, I guess, through that. And then as I've developed throughout my career, I've left a little bit of the musical side and moved over completely to the academic side, but really the same idea. So really about thinking about how I could create access first to music, and then second now to education.
I would think being an orchestral director would give you an interesting perspective coming into the role of chancellor. And I'm guessing you probably have applied a lot of what you did there with what you're doing with the chancellor's role. Is that true?
It's very true. I think when you conduct an orchestra, in essence, you make no sound. You rely on a bunch of incredible professionals who make amazing sounds, and you have to help them see a bigger picture to the piece that you're trying to bring to life. It's no different at a university. I'm surrounded by everyone who is smarter than me, and I have to help them see a bigger picture to what we're trying to do at the university, and it's a real honor to get to do that.
So in addition to your musical background, what else has prepared you for the role?
I think throughout my life, I've always been really fascinated about what makes large institutions click and how they relate to the place where they exist. So one of the things I love about UW Green Bay is how it's tied to Northeast Wisconsin. And I was born in Buffalo, New York, and I really see a lot of similarities between Buffalo and Green Bay. And I love the spirit of the city, and I love the spirit of the university and how it interrelates.
And with your career beginning in music, which often emphasizes creativity, collaboration, how have those principles influenced your leadership style at the university so far?
So I think the world of education, like the world of business, it's changing the speed of light. And really, I think the skills that you need nowadays and for an organization to have, one of the most important skills an organization can have is being willing to adapt and being willing to adapt at the pace of the change that is occurring around us. And so when I look at UW Green Bay, I think that's kind of one of our superpowers in a way. Like the university's been really willing to look at the world as it is and where it's going and trying to meet it. And that really excites me. That's the kind of place I want to work for sure.
And what was the biggest surprise coming into the role? What surprised you the most?
Well, I came into the role right as COVID began. So it was an interesting way to start doing this. I think what surprised me, I think some of this was because it was in the middle of COVID, frankly, is how fast I felt the connection to the university. So, and I think anytime you come to a new organization, it takes you a while to understand it and to really think about what it stands for and how you would embrace that. Really, when I came to Green Bay, I felt like that happened almost instantaneously. Like you could feel the spirit here and why I think it could resonate in Northeast Wisconsin.
Mike, when you came into Green Bay, during a pandemic, it makes it difficult to meet a lot of people. How did you go out and meet the people you work with and meet the community? How did you interact and really learn about this area?
So actually, sometimes in a crisis, it helps you to bond internally, right? So I had to meet the university really fast, and they got to know me really quick, and I got to know them, right? Because we had no choice. The community was harder, actually, and I do think in my first year I struggled because I could only meet people really online. I couldn't get a sense. I wasn't out in the community, and it took me longer to learn, I think, what makes the community tick. That's my favorite part of the job, actually, is representing the university out in the community, getting to see and meet the people of Northeast Wisconsin and figure out how at the university we can be relevant and help what's going on here.
With your 5 years on the job, is there anything that you do differently now that you have the benefit of hindsight?
How long is the show? I think I would do a lot differently, but I also, I've always thought, and this is my first role as chancellor, right? So the first time I've had a job leading a university like this. So I think now after 5 years, there's just certain things that I didn't, you can't understand everything about an organization right away, and I'd never done the job before. And if I look back, there's certain things that I thought I understood that I didn't. And now with time, you start to understand those and you look back and you go, oh, okay, maybe I didn't make the decision I made it with information that I knew. Now I know more information. I can make a better decision. I think you also learn, how different parts of the university and different people, what motivates them. And I think that's also with time on the job. I look back at it and some things I thought I was motivating somebody and maybe I wasn't. Just because I didn't understand what motivated them, and having the time to learn that, I think really helps you when you're leading an organization.
Okay. So UWGB, what exactly is that, and what's the mission of the university?
So, I think we are a bit unusual these days, and we have a very distinct mission in that we're what's called an access institution, and we're really proud of that. So we look at the world as that everyone is a potential student. Right? So we understand our place is to serve Northeast Wisconsin. That's principally what we do. So every decision we make, we think about it. Is this helping Northeast Wisconsin, and are we providing access to education for the people who live here? So a lot of universities think about a student as an 18-year-old who lives in a dorm and does very well in high school. We look at a student as anyone who wants to learn. And we try to meet students where they're at and help them get better. So we view the world differently. So over half of our students are first generation in college. The average age of our students is around 24. We do a lot of work with students who are in high school. We have 88,000 people that take non-credit work with us, non-credit education with us, which is a huge part of what we do. We try to think very differently about what education is, and who it serves. And we're also aware of the economic realities of education, right? So we know what the budget is for regional comprehensive university. And we think very carefully how we can use that budget to have the greatest impact on our region. Which means that we're not trying to mimic a university that might have a budget, 400 to 500 or 1,000 times bigger than ours, right? That's not our goal, right? We're not trying to be a giant university. If you think about Harvard, right? We're not trying to be Harvard. In fact, we're the exact opposite of Harvard, right? We stand for exactly the opposite thing, right? A lot of universities pride themselves on how many people they can exclude. We pride ourselves on how many people we can include.
So what is the footprint of UWGB?
It's a 16-county footprint. It goes from Sheboygan all the way up the coast to the top of the state. and everywhere in between. So we really think very carefully about those 16 counties, and it's fascinating. Our students, from what we can tell, come from about half urban areas and half rural, which I love about the university. I think we're one of the few universities that can say that. Right. Often the universities are, because of where they're located, right, they will serve one population more than the other. In our case, it's about 50-50 from what we could tell. And I love it because a lot of our students come here. They are coming to the big city. Some come here because they're coming from a really big city to a city that's a little more manageable.
Okay. And what are the areas of studies that are most popular, and what are the centers of excellence at UWGB?
So we have looked at our program array and try to tailor what we do for the degrees that we think are going to be the most interesting to the people in Northeast Wisconsin. Right. So if you look at that, our most popular degrees are business, engineering, computer science, and all the related things around that, nursing, education, and psychology. And when you ask about sort of what our most center of excellence, I would say there are two parts of the university that I would say are sort of that have a particular excellence to them for different reasons. And we define excellence in an interesting way. We define excellence, to me, excellence is how well are we serving our students, and are they benefiting from the education we're giving? And there's two programs we have that I think do this in pretty amazing ways. One is psychology. We have a huge psychology program for the size of our university, over 11,000 students, and a huge, over 600, last I looked, were in psychology. The other would be our First Nation Studies program. So we offer one of the only doctorates anywhere in First Nations education. And a long history of working in education to support the area tribes, and also to retain the history of the tribes in Wisconsin. It's something really important that we do.
Now, you mentioned that there's 11,000 students. Where does that put UWGB in relationship with the other UW campuses?
I think we are now, so Madison, Milwaukee, Whitewater, and Oshkosh. So I think we'd be the fifth largest of the. We were third smallest for most of our history. Okay. So it's been a big shift. We've grown by about 25% in the last 5 years.
And with your enrollments going up, what do you, I mean, obviously a lot of things you've already talked about will have played a factor in that, but what do you specifically figure or point to say that, hey, there's a reason why we're growing so well?
I think that, first of all, I have to give enormous credit to our faculty and staff who make this happen, right? So I think when we talk about the university, to me, it's really the combination when you accumulate everything together. It's each individual who's working towards our mission that causes the overall effect of the growth that we're seeing, right? And that's, I think, one of the things that makes me really proud about UW Green Bay is that when I look at the growth, I could often look at it and say it's this person who's doing that and this person who's doing that. And when you put all those together, that's what causes it. But I think one of the things that I haven't mentioned is there's a really cohesive commitment to our mission of access. And I think that is resonating with the people in Northeast Wisconsin who understand we're doing something different and thinking about higher ed in a different way.
Okay, we've reached the point where we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch, and our guest today is Chancellor Mike Alexander from the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, or UWGB, and we'll get back to the conversation with Mike in just a moment. First, I'd like to spend a few seconds talking about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. SCORE Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin, plus the county of Menominee, Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session, in order to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the form online and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. To support small business people, SCORE Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have an experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for joining us on Biztalk, and now back to Terry.
Okay, Mike, one of the things we talked a little bit about in the first segment is just that interaction of UWGB and learning about the community when you first came here. I want to talk a little bit about how you interact with specifically the business and entrepreneurial community, what outreach is done, what programming is offered, that type of thing.
Yeah, so lots of ways. So first of all, we're a partner with Titletown Tech here in Green Bay. We think about all the things that we can do in the region to help support business. Even within the university, we have a small business development center that exists at UW Green Bay. We in all of our programs, when we think about entrepreneurship, we don't think about entrepreneurship just in our business school. We think about entrepreneurship as a skill that every student at UW Green Bay is going to need, no matter what major field you're in. We do everything we can to listen to the business community. So I guess one of the great examples of this, I would say, is we have a new master's in supply chain coming out. The curriculum that we use for that master's in supply chain was basically created in collaboration with the amazing businesses that deal with logistics and supply chain in Green Bay and the surrounding area. Right, we have some giants like Schneider, KBX, other ones that are here that do incredible work in this, and our extent to listen to them and make sure that we are tailoring our programs to benefit the companies that our students are going to go work for.
And how are you developing actually working with them interactively to develop programs so they come in and give advice or in that way too?
Absolutely. So for pretty much all of our colleges and a lot of our programs, we have an advisory board that consists of industry leaders in our region who talk to us about what we're doing in our programs and how to strengthen it, what they would be looking for graduates that are coming out of UW Green Bay.
And one of the things I know I saw on your website and when you talked about online training and others, and we talked previously about some of the part-time or part-time students, some maybe older. How do you manage and work with those students differently than how you would work with full-time students on campus?
So I actually think the learning experience here is incredible because you get the benefit of both. So if you're 18 years old and you're in a classroom and you have a faculty member, and in your class you also have people who have been in the industry for a while and have all kinds of experience they also bring to that classroom, then wow, you're getting an amazing experience in that class, right? You are learning in all kinds of ways. And I also think it's really important for the person who's more experienced to listen to what an 18-year-old is thinking, right? And what they see that field is doing and the questions that they have or the things they're interested in learning or what they want to see happen in the industry. I can't imagine a better way to learn, actually.
Okay. So let's wrap this segment up with a discussion on this. Get your answer to why should somebody get a degree from UWGB? Why is it a good investment and a great value?
So I'll be as quick as I can here, but I think when you think about higher ed, people often think of it in one broad bucket. Right. And we focus on often people who want to stay local for their degree. Right. And if you think about this, if you go to a university that costs you $80,000 a year, right, and have to take out student debt, that's why when you hear that it's, people are leaving the universities with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. If you go 4 years to UW Green Bay, you're going to get an amazing education. You could buy a car for $30,000. right? Nowadays, it's almost what you have to spend to buy a new car, right? And that car is going to depreciate the minute you drive it off the lot. You can also spend that $30,000 and have all of your tuition paid for 4 years at UW Green Bay. And imagine what that does to you throughout your career. And I think the other thing is that we have 60 years of proof of what a UW Green Bay education can provide for you. Our alumni are out doing amazing things. When you think about the workforce in our region, it's populated with a lot of UW Green Bay graduates. 70% of our students never leave the region. And that, I think, is proof of the power of a UW Green Bay degree.
Yeah, and as an outsider who moved into the area, I think that one thing should be recognized is UWGB and some of the community colleges and other UW campuses in the area have done a really great job of making this a highly educated and trained workforce, and not just highly educated in things that business and other things, but all aspects of life and services and trades. So it's really great to see. It was something that really impressed me when I moved here, is how much care there was around education. So
yeah, I agree. Long history of it in Wisconsin for sure.
Yep. So with that, we are going to take our second break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score and WHBY. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score. This week we're talking to Mike Alexander, Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin Green Bay. But before we get back to Mike, I want to give you a quick update on some SCORE webinars and education training that we have as well. If you go to our website, it's score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see a tab at the top of the page for workshops and events and webinars. And if you go in there, you'll see online courses, you'll see some webinars that have been taped, and you'll see some events coming up that are typically going to be webinars after they're live. But you can sign up for these courses, and there's literally hundreds of them, and they do not give you the full education you're going to get from courses, say, at a university. They're not that type of education, but they are ones that will introduce you to things like why you should have a bookkeeper, why it's important to have a lawyer, what is artificial intelligence, how do you use social media. So there's a lot of different topics there. There's a whole series on how to start up a business. There's a whole series on how to shut down a business. So a wide variety of things that I always tell people is a really good way to get it's a starter, to go get an introduction to a topic, to know if you need to learn more or not. And so a really good site to learn those things. And it's score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, and it's on the workshops and events tab. So with that, Rick, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Again, you're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and our guest this morning is Chancellor Mike Alexander from University of Wisconsin Green Bay, or UWGB. And Mike, we talked about how things have changed, and you mentioned COVID and how that was such a change when you first came to the job that you have now. But one other thing that's really that's really come upon us in the last few years has been AI. And there's a lot of people that maybe truly don't understand what AI is completely yet, or, we're just starting to integrate in with it, things like that. But how are you at UWGB planning or integrating emerging tech like AI into operations and curriculum?
Yeah, so it's a big question. I think one that we're wrestling with every day. I think it's a very complicated issue for all kinds of reasons, but I'll do my best to sort of talk through as quick as I can the sort of ways we're looking at this. One is on sort of how we do the operations of the university, like you're talking about. So in my mind, the best way our staff can be used is to interact with our students and to the community. So to the extent we can use AI to reduce the sort of menial functions that we do that have to be done, right? Often that's not why we're hiring a person, right? Sometimes we just need that done, but often what we need is someone has to do those sort of tasks, but we really want them doing the thing that's connected to a student, right? And so that's one of the ways we're looking at this, is how can we get our people doing what they're best at, which is interacting with other people. Second is what happens in the classroom. Right. And we're working through sort of all the ethical issues that are surrounding an AI. I know one of the concerns around AI is often around cheating. And I think one of the things I've been struck with is that I've been thinking a lot about is that, cheating is not new to education, right? Cheating has been around pretty much throughout the history of education. AI it could be considered a new way of cheating, or it could be considered a new way to learn. And we are trying to look at it in the latter, right? Is how do you use it as a tool that enhances what you do in the classroom to make the education that you're providing more relevant to the student, right? So are you having to take time to teach facts, or are you taking your time to help students understand the information that they're getting? So in modern education, you no longer need facts, right? Necessarily, right? Everyone has a phone, right? You can get any information instantaneously, right? What you need is the ability to interpret that information to determine if it's in fact factual, right? First of all. And second of all, what you can do with that information that might help your community or the world or your field, right? And if you flip it and think of it that way in AI, I find it to be very exciting, right? But it's a new way to think about teaching. It's a new way to think about what skills you need as you enter the workforce. And it's a new way for you to be able to do work in a way. And we're seeing this across every field that we teach in, right? Like if you think about what an accountant used to do, that's now changed. What a lawyer used to do, that's now changed, right? And so how do we teach then to that reality?
All right. If a lot of people out there are like me, when they're watching television, once in a while see your face come across the screen, in promoting this program that's called Rising Phoenix. Could you give listeners a summary of what Rising Phoenix is and why it's important to UWGB?
Yeah, so to me, first of all, I apologize that you see my face on the screen. Let me start there. But second of all, to me, Rising Phoenix is it sort of encapsulates who we are, right? So we started looking at the issue of who is able to get support to who's not considering college, right? And why are they not considering it? And often they're not considering it because they maybe come from a low socioeconomic background, or no one in their family's ever been to college, or perhaps at the moment they are up and down in school. They haven't quite found where they fit yet. And we said with this, okay, well, how do we think about how we could provide wraparound services for a student who we know is interested in a particular field that they're going to need a college degree for, but may not understand the route to get there. And so Rising Phoenix is a way for a student to get their associate's degree with us at UW-Green-Bay at no to minimal cost to the student. And they graduate from high school and with an associate's degree at the same time. So if you're, for example, in a rural area and your school can't provide the same number of AP classes or other things that students in bigger school districts might be able to get, this is an amazing thing for you, right? You can get your associate's degree and work with university faculty, work with your teachers at your high school, and mix this experience together to get this associate's degree, right? Or in other areas, again, where students just may not see themselves in college, how do we provide that route? And for us, it's a way to create access. Best part about the program so far, it saves students about $5.4 million in tuition. And the success rate is quite remarkable. So 30% of the students after they finish Rising Phoenix go to UW-Green-Bay. Another 60+% go to another UW school, off with the biggest one being Madison, right? So we are helping these students get social mobility through their education.
So what sort of support provided by UWGB is helping lead students to success in the program?
So often the things that trip up students are not actually their ability to understand the material that's in a class, right? It is their ability to understand the way education works. And perhaps their background, they're not afforded those same advantages. So I could just use myself as an example. My dad went to college. My mom did not. Okay. And when I was going through school, my mom could offer me amazing moral support and believed in the power of education. She wanted me to be educated, no doubt about it. My dad, though, actually could tell me when I was having a problem in school what might be causing that problem, right? And I think that is one of the things that we're looking at here is when you have someone who's with that student hand to hand, not to give them answers, but to help them when they have specific questions they're not understanding, or to help them with really resilience and perseverance, right, about what it takes to be able to advance. And if you look at the success rate of students going through the program, it's incredible when they have this support. And like in all great education, the best part about the Rising Phoenix is when they leave us, they no longer need that support. So when they go to the university, then they are really prepared to be a college student because they've, for 2 years, had that support. And we're trying to look, even with Rising Phoenix, how we can apply this to all of our students at the university who don't all obviously come through Rising Phoenix program.
So what are you doing to get the word out to the folks of Wisconsin and how it can have such an impact on Wisconsin? What things are you doing to drive Rising Phoenix into people's thought process and to their top of mind awareness?
So we're talking to as many superintendents and principals as we can, and we've started, mostly in Northeast Wisconsin and working out, or within Green Bay actually, and working out, right? But already we have programs as far north as like Florence and Niagara, as far south as Sheboygan and beyond. So we're covering a pretty large range at this point. We're also, having broader conversations to anybody who will listen to us about sort of how this can look beyond UW Green Bay.
And what is the future when you have those conversations? What kind of future are people envisioning because of this program?
I think what people are seeing is that, we want, and I think it was mentioned earlier that, in Wisconsin, we have this incredible ecosystem of education, right? So if I look at even in Green Bay, right, we've got an amazing technical college in WTC, we've got an amazing private in St. Norbert, and you have a great regional comprehensive in UW Green Bay. The key is how a student understands how they're going to access those benefits, right? So, and what it means throughout your life, right? So a student, we look at any student that starts at NWTC, that at some point in their life, they may want to come to UW Green Bay, right? We look at a student who's at UW Green Bay, perhaps at some point they realize, there's something in St. Norbert that they're going to benefit from. We try to think about how all this works together. And when you talk to a student in high school, they usually have an idea what they want to do. They don't know necessarily what they need to be able to be successful in that thing, right? And I think that's where Rising Phoenix can really help, is they say, I want to be this thing. And we're like, okay, if you want to do that, it's going to mean this kind of education to get to that goal, right? And that's where we're trying to use it to help.
As talent needs change in business, as we've seen happening and getting worse in a lot of ways, what kind of support have you received from the business community within the area to help with Rising Phoenix?
I think business leaders are starting to really understand this, and we've had some great examples of businesses stepping up in communities to help students to be able to do this. I'll use Manitowoc as a great example. I think the whole community of Manitowoc has just been incredible in understanding the power of Rising Phoenix. And when you go to Manitowoc, it's incredible the number of students that are going through that program and what it's meaning for, I think, for the city of Manitowoc in the future. It's and the businesses there. It's a really, really great thing. You want an educated workforce, right? And I say education in the broadest sense I can say it, right? We need people in the trades. But you need this appropriate mix of people to make sure your economy works, right? And working collaboratively to make that happen in an affordable way, I think is what we're trying to do.
Let's switch gears, Mike. Let's get a little more background about you as a person. What motivates you when you get up in the morning, get out of bed? What's getting you going during the day?
So a couple things. I think one that is going to sound a little strange. I've been to many graduations in my career, and when I think about the students that are graduating, often they're graduating, and the student who's graduating, they have parents who've gone to college. They're sort of expected to graduate from college. And it's definitely a happy moment that students worked really hard to get their college degree. I don't question any of that. If you come to a UW Green Bay graduation, when those students cross the stage, I've never heard anything like it, actually. The student's name will get called, and it sounds, there's an eruption. And the look on that student's face is what motivates me. It is incredible to shake their hand. And, often they're crying, or they just can't believe they are crossing that stage. And the way they look at their family out in the audience, is pretty remarkable. And that's one of the big things. The other thing to me is I've always believed that an institution should benefit its community. And when I look at what UW-Green-Bay is doing and how it's working with Northeast Wisconsin, that's what fuels me. Like I'm out in the community every day. I pride myself on that. And I learn a ton from being out in the community and can see the impact that we are having. And that also drives me every day.
So who's played an important role in your past that's really gotten you to where you are today?
There's so many people I can think of, so it's hard to narrow it down. I mean, I think, I look at my dad, who, just to me always had an incredible work ethic and had incredible integrity in the way he did his work. So he just would not accept it if it was not right. He was an engineer, right? So that was pretty core to what he did. And I think that's rubbed off on me. I think about my career as an artist or as a conductor. And I think about particularly one particular college professor that I had in my doctoral degree, David Becker, who helped me see really the combination of what it meant to really actually work hard and also view the world from a lot of different angles. And what it takes to be excellent at something and the sacrifice that takes, I think I'll always be indebted. But there are countless people I could think of in my life who just questioned me. And I think perhaps those people I'm most grateful to. Like sometimes in the moment, it can be hard to hear, but you always look back on when someone pushes on you. And that's often what makes you get better. And I think there's a whole list of people I could think about there that I'd be too long to mention.
Okay. What have you found as you've worked through those things you've learned in your personal life, and you bring those to work with you every day, obviously? What do you find that line to be between your personal life and work? I mean, is the role taken on such a passion for you that it's kind of morphed into one, or have you been able to separate the two from each other?
Yeah, so I would mention one more person, and that's my mom, which I'm getting to answer your question in a second. But I think my mom, I think has taught me about unconditional love, and I think that's where personally I think I do merge often my sort of my personal beliefs and what I do at UW-Green-Bay. So I truly believe that everyone in their heart is trying to do the right thing. And I try to hear anyone who that is talking to me through that lens. I think, particularly in the world we live in now, people are often very passionate on one particular subject, one side or the other. I think often both are coming from a good place. They want to solve a problem. It's hearing that and hearing always with that spirit. That to me is really important and where I try to live both my personal life and my professional life. I think it's hard to separate yourself. I think one of the things that I've learned in this job is that you have to, you obviously you're speaking on behalf of the institution when I'm in my role as chancellor. And I have to always be aware that I'm not speaking as Mike Alexander. I'm speaking as the leader of UW-Green-Bay. And sometimes that can be interesting. And so I always want to make sure I've always believed you can't speak if you're not speaking authentically. And so when I'm leading UW-Green-Bay, I think that's why my personal and my professional sort of merge.
Okay. Are you having fun?
I am having fun. I know that's going to sound maybe weird, but I can't imagine a job like you asked me about getting out of bed. I fly out of bed in the morning. Because it's like, what an incredible environment to get to work in. You're surrounded by brilliant people. You're surrounded by students who want to learn. You're in a community that is vibrant and is interested in education, like you all have mentioned. What better? I can't imagine a more interesting thing to be doing.
All right. And I think we've come to a point where we'll take our last break of the show. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. We'll be right back.
I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biztalk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biztalk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan ahead, thereby helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing and Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works with you to understand your goals, matching the right banking and wealth services to help you complete your mission. Thanks to the Business News for promoting our program, the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We'd also like to recognize David L. and Rita E. Nelson within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for the generous donation and support of Biztalk and SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. We greatly appreciate the money provided by the fund and are helping to use that to provide our educational resources in this area. So with that, we'll turn back to Mike. And again, we're talking to Mike Alexander from UWGB. And Mike, can you let people know where they can connect with UWGB, how they can find out about it?
Sure. So first of all, you can just go to our website, uwgb.edu, wealth of information there. But we really pride ourselves, one of our 6 strategic priorities for the university is on community engagement. So we invite you just to come to campus, come to the Widener Center, which is doing an amazing job in presenting the arts to the community. We have one of the top 100 disc golf courses in the country on our campus. If you like to disc golf, come check that out. We have beautiful trails, and we have the only Division I athletic program north of Madison, Milwaukee. And super proud of that. Super proud of the Phoenix and all that we're doing there. And so there's so many ways. Come to a lecture. There's so many ways you can engage with this as a community.
Excellent. So, Mike, in these last few minutes, let's talk a little bit about where you see education going. It's always in the news now. It's controversial with different opinions and directions. What do you see coming, and how are we going to adapt?
So I think the last word you just said, Terry, is the right word. So either you can fear change or you can embrace it and you can find opportunity in it. And I look at everything as simply an opportunity. How are we going to thrive within the conditions that surround us? And so that's how we try to solve every problem, right? We look at it and we have to stay true to our core principles, right? Which is to make sure that we are going to provide access to education and do the very best job to help people grow. And to me, that's not a political issue. Right? That's just core to who we are as humans. One of the innate traits of human beings is they want to learn. So therefore, I think education is always going to be relevant.
So in areas such as the cost of education, we've touched on little pieces of that and how it impacts people in ways of managing it. But is that something that the university is having you look at more and more, is how you manage those costs for students and how you work with students so they can manage those costs?
Yeah, so the latter, right? So that's right. We have to work with students to make sure they understand what they're buying and what they get for it, right? There's no question about that. So I always tell anyone, like, we have to look at this, right, in terms of what makes a student understand what they're going to get and know what they're doing when they come into education. So for too long, people would come to education, they wouldn't be as well informed as they could be about what they're going to receive when they're here and what the benefits are when they leave, right? And we got to flip that paradigm so that it's completely transparent on the equation, and therefore they know what they're getting and the benefits of it.
And one of the other things we see in the news a lot is just how different people have different expectations of a university. And how do you manage some of those conflicts so that you can do the right things for both your students, the professors, and the staff?
Yeah, so I think it's always important to listen really, really carefully. And I think you have to fall back always on why we're here. And for us, it is about making sure we're benefiting our region. It's making sure that we're doing a great job educating our students, right? And it's making sure that we are keeping education relevant. So to your point about where education is going, to me, it's all going to be about whether or not you can adapt fast enough to meet the community where it's at.
Okay. First of all, Mike, thank you very much. It's been a really interesting conversation, and we learned a lot about the program and Rising Phoenix program is something that's been really impressive for those of us on the outside to see and see where you're taking it. So we really appreciate having you on.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys. It's a really great conversation. Thank you.
Okay, great. And for our listeners, again, you've been listening to Biztalk with SCORE. If you go to our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see a link there to a little more detail on the radio show. You can see Rick's face and put a face to his voice. And you'll also find about 6 years actually it's up to 7 years now of prior episodes. So go and take a listen. You'll find a lot of good shows. And really appreciate everybody. Thank you for listening in, and we will be talking to you next Saturday. Have a great week, everybody.